Hi, my name is Gene Monterastelli, and the video you are about to watch is a recording from the 24 Hours of Tapping, which is an event that is held annually to support the Peaceful Heart Network. If you appreciate or learn anything from this video, the easiest way for you to say thank you is to support the work of the Peaceful Heart Network, who has worked with over 300,000 migrants, immigrants, prisoners, folks in disaster areas by bringing tapping to them. As you watch the video, across the bottom, you will see a link where you can support their amazing work. And I hope you enjoy this conversation. Rick Wilkes is an emotional freedom coach and a trauma and pain relief specialist with more than 28 years of experience. He uses intuitive and deep understanding of human nature to bring relief, clarity, and insight for those who are looking for a thriving life now. Connecting body, mind, and spirit, Eric helps his clients in private sessions and in his group coaching program to move out of suffering to a place where they can begin to feel surprisingly calm and confident. From there, he teaches them how to shift to a vibrational state of thriving in every respect of their life. Please welcome to the virtual stage my friend, Rick Wilkes. One of the things that I'm always just fascinated about, and I also think it's useful in conversations. We've been doing it through these entire 24 hours, and almost every time I have a conversation, I like doing this, is I like to know what people mean by particular words, so that even if you and I don't define the word the exact same way, we at least know where you're coming from when we have a conversation about it. So I would just love to hear what you mean and what you think about when you use the word thrive.
Yeah. Um, I think if we walked into nature and you could just feel that nature was off, that
Mhm.
there had been intrusions or it just the whole vibe of it is off, you could say that something's off here. It's not thriving. And yet there's so much of nature that you can walk into and be like, this is nice. Oh, this is nice. And it can be rocky, it can be desert, it can be lush jungle, it can be, and there's a vibe of, yeah, this is much more than surviving.
Mhm.
You can feel that there's a richness to it. And it doesn't mean that there's not competitions happening, even trees dying. Um, Bugs eating each other. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot that can be going on. So for me, thriving says, it's beyond survival, that I'm not actually in that survival vibe of like, I'm trying to hold it together. And it has more vitality than I'm okay. Like,
Mm.
to me, there's a place, a beautiful neutrality of like, okay, I'm okay. And it's real, like, okay, I'm okay. The thriving is as we move our energy more toward vitality and freedom and connection, that the vibration is one that has more aliveness, that also can hold the part of us that wants to survive. It's essential that we survive on
Yeah.
some level. It can hold that, but it's not dominating the picture. And that there's a sense of of us being a part of an ecosystem, a human ecosystem, and an emotional world, and energy, nature, our work that matters, and that we're holding that too.
Yeah. And so as you say that, two things strike me immediately. The first is in the definition that you're giving of thriving, you're giving a definition that is about interdependence and how the description of thriving that you're giving is it's not an experience, but it's an experience in relationship or in community or in environment in the world. And so often when I am reflecting on, am I thriving, am I not, am I good, am I bad, whatever, like my assessment, like if you ask me how I'm doing, rarely am I giving you an environmental answer. Like my answer is stopping right here. And just you talking about thriving in that way, like immediately challenges me in how I answer the question, how are you doing? You know, and I don't just mean like, and I don't mean like the barista in my coffee shop who I have lovely baristas who are interested in me and my life. And that, like, there is relationship there. It's not purely transactional. Like one morning I walked in there and Dylan's like, you're here every single morning. What do you do? Like there's engagement inside of that, you know, but thinking of this interdependent, like beyond just here as thriving is interesting. The other thing, and I want to tease both of these out, but I want to say both of them before I don't lose it. The other thing that I find really interesting in your answer is what you're describing is a SU scale, not a SUD scale. And what I mean by that is so often when many of us are taught tapping, we're taught a SUD scale, which is subjective units of distress. And it's like
Correct.
0 to 10, how big is the pain? Where a SU scale is the subjective units of experience. And a SU scale goes from a -10 to a +10. And if I'm
Interesting.
just thinking about a SUD scale, I'm thinking about how do I make the discomfort go down or go away? Where a SU scale, the discomfort is a -4, but when I get to a 0, I recognize there is something that is more abundant and more thriving on the other side of that. It's not that I'm not, it's not that I've eliminated the fear. I'm also comfortable inside of my own skin. And that is another step along that particular path. And so I think it's in that definition of thriving, it's lovely. It's you're mentioning, oh, I'm trying to overcome, but it's not just
Yes.
overcoming, but inserting something else instead. And so, like, those are the two things that bounce out for me. I would love to hear your reflections on both of those things and choose your own adventure. Like, which of those do you want to like step into first?
I, since, my thriving is something that came to me as a concept early on in tapping, and
Mm-hmm.
I named my company after it.
Yep.
Um, and it's become my practice. So I've looked at this a lot for myself. And perhaps it is that a lot of the people that I work with are energetically sensitive and energetically connected. And so their answer about how are you doing, it can be helpful to get them to kind of come back within themselves
Mm-hmm.
and get that inner me space. Okay, so in the me space, I've got some distresses, and I've actually got some curiosities bubbling and burbling here. And so for thriving and tapping, often bringing ourselves back to, okay, how am I doing as a me? That can
Mm-hmm.
help empathetic people to like bring their sensors a little closer to home. And that's really useful. And that is an aspect of thriving. Today, with my community and a lot of the people I'm connected to, even when they do that, they're holding so many things inside themselves, connections to people that are in distress, that have had the rules changed, and a lot of other things. And so the line between me and we, um, I think me is a practice. Like, oh, okay, if I set aside for a moment this thing that's happening with a family member, I can get a different view of myself and my own thriving. Am I the surviving? Am I in the negative zone? Right? Like, okay, I'm really in distress. These are subjective units of distress. My liver hurts. My
Mm-hmm.
heart is shaky. My nervous system feels like it's on edge. Those are me experiences. And tapping to get us to that neutral place, I think that that is such an exquisitely valuable, essential nature of tapping is that in the me space, I can quiet my nervous system. I can tune to what my heart needs, even though my heart feels this intense yearning for peace. I accept all of my feelings can get you from it being a distress to like a presence. That zero to me is lovely. And there's also in the call to thriving, it says, and with that yearning in this place of presence, where do I want to take it? And that's a lot of where I tap is, oh, I what matters to me is peace. What matters to me is to support people in their artistry. What matters to me, and you see, like I'm even just imagining myself tapping, and now I'm physically tapping, and like I want people to be in their peace sufficiently to be able to know what inspired action they want to take that is right for them, that matters to them. When we get there, peaceful hearts are engaged, and they're that energy of aliveness, even if it is doing something hard. I tap with a lot of people, like, but it's not supposed to be hard. Well, it is hard, and that doesn't make it bad.
Hmm.
And if so, that's um, I see those two aspects as blended and interwoven in the personal tapping journey, is to help get us to the place where internally we're congruent and aware, and then in our connections with others, um, we can be thriving anyway, even if they're a mixture of thorns and joys.
Hmm.
We can be thriving anyway.
And so I'm curious inside of that, how do you, for yourself, for the clients or your students, how do you, I guess for lack of a better word, craft a definition of what does thriving look like to me? Because I
Mm.
think I think one of the things that we're very good at is in chapter and verse, I can tell you everything that is wrong. I can tell you everything that is wrong physical pain. I can tell you everything that's wrong with my technology, with the world. Like I can, like that's a really easy thing for me to recognize. That's great. It's a great place for us to solve problems. I think we struggle on the other side of that to like, I guess for a target to shoot for. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not even thinking like, well, it's a measuring stick of like, how good am I doing at thriving? I'm not trying to get to that sort of like super, super like measurement, but we need to have a direction. And
Mhm.
so when we're in a circumstance where the things I know discomfort, I know I'm not thriving in the way that I want to. I know that I want different, and that is all I know. So if I am in that circumstance, because it's hard for me to see something as believable if I don't even know what I'm trying to believe in. Thriving can be so ethereal beyond that. So like
Oh,
how
sure.
as an individual who's wrestling with this, how do we like, and maybe we don't have an answer for that until we're clearing some of the distress and along the way, but I'd be interested in just like process, how do we come to clarity about that, or how do we move towards something that we don't know what it is yet? Or we have
We
no
just pointed
clarity
to
about.
you
Yeah.
pointed to the obstacle course that our conditioning and our primitive brain sets us up for.
Mhm,
We have to notice the threats to our survival, and we have to notice things that, if it can be fixed, that is a good thing. Like,
mhm,
there's a part of us that puts a lot of our life force toward that. Uh, Your question about, like, where's our pointer? Yeah, thriving as an ecosystem. Well, what's part of the ecosystem? To me, I ask client, well, what matters to you? So if somebody's working with a relationship challenge and it's got them all flummoxed, their
mhm,
energy is all over the place, even though my body's all just crazy, upset. Um, what matters to me is safe connection. Now, you may not come up with that on your own when you're all discombobulated.
mhm,
I do believe that as part of the practices that we do, if we do our tapping on what's coming up for us, And we ask the question, well, what matters to me here? And you can put it in emotional terms, you know, um, you can put it in the terms of values and the like. And I've been doing that more and more, and I'm noticing the shift
Mm-hmm.
because if what matters to me is um, depth that and safety and connection at depth, what happens to my body, mind, energy when that's not there?
Mm-hmm.
That's where those discomforts and other things. But if I look at it first as, oh, I've got to fix the relationship. Uh-huh. Sometimes,
Yeah.
but I've not found that as fruitful as going like, even though this relationship lacks safe depth right now, and my body is telling me that, I remind myself how much safety and depth in my love relationships matters to me, and bring it home. Like, yeah, this matters to me. And then you'll notice things like a yearning or some grief, um, other the raw emotions like resentment can come up, but you're standing in a place of this matters to me. And so the feelings that arise are less likely to be pushed away. No, look, depth matters to me.
Mm-hmm.
Intimacy matters to me. Connection and safety matter to me. And that's good and right for me. It doesn't have to matter to everybody else, but it matters to me. And if you can stand in that place, to me, you are thriving in your clarity. You may not be thriving in your connection with that person. That may be full of that, but it does mean to me that you're at least thriving in your clarity, which is one of the aspects here.
I love that. I love this idea of, because like, like practically, like I'm thinking about and I'm tapping with consistently with myself and my clients around this idea of, you know, success is not an all or nothing proposition. Happiness is not
Yeah,
an all or nothing. And like and because our subconscious
boy,
mind
our
works,
primitive brain really tries to
yeah,
convince
it's
us that it's
it's
either
all black,
you're
it's all black, yeah. And so like almost like that first idea of like, you know, I like I, I was working with someone a couple of days ago, and she was talking about like this emotion that came up and how she was going to acquiesce. Like she got undermined by a friend. Like a friend said, "Oh, you need to go work with her, and she's going to give you a discount." Like literally, like put her in a bad situation. And what we were tapping on was her emotional thing of coming up of going, I have to give them this lower rate. Like intellectually, she was annoyed, but emotionally, there was a still, I have to do this. And one of the things that we celebrated before we tapped was she never said any of those things out loud, and she didn't lower herself because someone else had put her in that position. And so I'm like, yes, it stinks. You have this emotion where there's a part of you that wants to undercut your own value to feel safe in this moment,
yeah.
and you didn't. It's great we need to deal with this particular emotion, but the fact that you had the emotion but didn't act out of it, that is a step forward. And so this idea
Mm,
of thriving at these different steps along the way, like that becomes a really valuable thing. Like it's almost like I have a medical test that is out. And since I don't know what the result is, my subconscious mind, my primitive brain is worrying about every single possible outcome, even though they are contradictory. And there is almost relief the moment I get a diagnosis, even if it's severe, because I'm not worrying, I'm worrying. And that becomes and so there is the when I have this sense of clarity, all of a sudden energetically I'm in a different place. And so like I love you're using the word thrive with clarity of my problem or thriving with clarity of my value, even if I don't know what the outcome is yet. And if I don't know what the outcome looks like and I can't make steps toward it, that clarity is so valuable. I love you use the word thrive in that particular setting.
Yeah. And even if what we're doing is we're holding this vast uncertainty, which to me, the way that my brain works and the way that I was resonating with what you were talking about is if there's a variety of possible outcomes, okay, there's a part of my brain that says, I need to keep working on this. I need to keep working on this. I need to keep working. Even and that's where I would tap, even though
Yep.
a part of me feels like I have to keep working on this. Resilience matters to me. Resilient. And then I can look at those and say, can I be resilient even if that happens? Can I be resilient? And if you know that resilience matters to you, then one of those might come up as, if that's the result, I'm going to need some help.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, I had a loved one in for some surgery, first time, you know, uh, she had ever had surgery. And there was one outcome in that mix, which is as I tapped on, and resiliency matters to me, being able to hold my presence matters to me. And there was one outcome that could have happened because life and death. Um, and I had one person that I pre-prepared say, look, I don't think this is going to happen, but if it does, I will. Are you willing to be there
Yep.
to support me? And they said, yeah, I'll drop everything and I'll be on a flight if that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, yeah, I feel the resilience I now have in place. It matters to me. And the nightmare stopped.
Mm-hmm.
That was great. And the flashes of the things that really would have stretched my resilience to the breaking point, like we know ourselves. I mean, an obstacle can be quite simply if I have to do this on my own, I don't have the life force or the physical vitality to be able to do it. That's real.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're clear about what matters to you, then things that don't serve you well, like it matters to me not to be a burden on my loved ones. When you're tapping and you say something like that, okay, yeah, I don't want to, like, I'm not going to fashion my life so that I can be more of a burden on my loved one.
Right.
But you can also land on, like, I know that I am a part of caring for other people and that there will be things that happen in their life that are something I help them carry and that I've been carried through things. And that can free up the limited belief so that even if there is a possibility that you will be more interdependent with perhaps a little more emphasis on the dependent for a period of
Mm-hmm.
time,
Yeah.
um, that you're okay. You can still be thriving anyway, right? And so that's one of the ways that I'm working with this is to strengthen up our framework for thriving so that, okay, what matters to me, you start having a list of things. And as you look at those things that matter to you start getting a sense of yourself as someone who is thriving, can be thriving, has good and sufficient support for thriving at some level. And it starts a lot of the noise about success and achievement and I love yearnings and I love aspirations, but much of life falls into the category of good and sufficient for thriving. But we have these things like that stand in our way, these
Hmm.
obstacles, and that's where um, the tapping that I invite people is to try on. Even though this terrible thing is a part of my awareness, or this terrible thing is right here, and I can't fix it. I wonder if it's possible to be thriving anyway. Tap, tap, tap. Do you think it might be possible? No, part of me says, no way, impossible. No one could be thriving if this was happening. Is that really true? I wonder. I'm kind of creative and I'm weird. As I'm just tapping, I'm creatively weird. I wonder if I could be absurdly calm and confident. I'm wondering if I could be um, capable.
And as you're
And
doing that,
and
yeah.
the beauty of tapping as an energy tool to get us from distress to okay, it continues to apply, going from I accept that this is a reality, and now what? I wonder. I wonder is are such great words for the energy of curiosity has been shown to open up parts of our heartistry and our awareness. Our gut goes, oh, they're wondering. They're not fleeing, they're not fighting, they're not frozen. They're wondering, all these other cells, all these other parts of me. Oh, wonder. And the cool thing about wonder is that, we think of that as a peak experience. Oh, it's wonderful. And just about a micro dose of wonder in the midst of that can be enough to change our energy flow into places that have more agency, have more resource.
So inside of that answer, there you bumped into my two favorite dispositions in tapping: curiosity and possibility. Like if we did a word cloud of the phrases that I use, I'm open to the possibility is going to be one of the biggest words of mine. And then that sense of wonder, like you're talking about what it feels like. For me, the physical posture of wonder is my head tilts and eyebrow goes up and I go, huh. And we know that when we smile, because of the classical conditioning of the emotion that goes along with these muscles, that if I smile, it raises my emotion in that moment. For me, all I have to do is just go, huh. And no matter what problem I'm in, I don't even have to say, I wonder. Just taking the posture of, huh, is enough for me to start having that shift to see what is there inside of that. And the other thing that I love about this idea of wonder, and that question, not like this is wonderful, but I wonder, is it implies I don't have the answer, and it immediately gives me permission not to have the answer. It's like, oh, this is the path forward. There's a very particular energy to that, which might have confidence or it might have a lack of confidence. And I'm saying words that I don't believe. But it's really hard for me not to be emotionally connected to my words when I'm talking about, I wonder. Like, because I wonder is not about definitiveness. It's about
Yeah.
openness. It's about that space inside of that. And it's like I sit down to tap for a reason. Like I like even if it is just content free wordless tapping for 60 seconds, so I just downregulate my emotions just a little bit. But I'm never not tapping without purpose. But
Hmm.
because that is the case, there is a desire, there is an outcome, which means I now immediately have a yardstick. Am I doing a sufficient job? Is this tool working as well as I want? Am I moving forward in the way that I want? And the moment I say, I wonder if, I immediately start emotionally letting go, not intellectually dismissing, but I'm emotionally letting go of my attachment to a particular outcome. And for me, it is easier to thrive when I'm not emotionally attached to a particular outcome. Doesn't mean that there's not a lack of desire. Doesn't mean that I'm not appreciative and moving towards something, but there's a difference for me between an emotional attachment of this is the outcome I must have, which is like the antithesis to this interconnected ecosystem that you were talking about at the beginning of what thriving feels like. And so it's like, I wonder if, boy, is that an amazing key to reduce the friction, reduce the internal tightness of me being open to and stepping towards and recognizing what is possible as I move towards thrive.
Yeah. And we all have a nature. I mean, we're wired differently, both from our essential personality, how we're wired neurologically. I love that tapping applies to the whole diversity spectrum. And for each of us to find doorways like wonder and curiosity are what open up a doorway for me too, because I've got a really good analytical brain. It can plot and scheme and try to be successful at an outcome. Um, I tap often without purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You'll notice even during our time we're talking, I start tapping, and I mean, I could assign a purpose,
Yeah.
but to me, there's a quality of play. Like I'm playing with my energy, like, this point right here, I'm just playing with. I wonder. Hmm. And we're entering into a phase where what we wonder and question about, learning to open up our awareness, um, it's going to allow us to use tools for co-creating, like AI. Um, you can use tools to get a particular outcome, but tools like tapping, if you're like, hey, this matters to me. Um, oh, wonder. I can't even say the words. Why is that? Oh, yeah. Even though I was taught to always know the answer before I opened my mouth and it had to be right, I wonder how it would feel to be an aspiring imperfectionist. Ooh, that gives me a tingle, right? You can
Yeah.
you can play with I wonder. Um, and when you land on something that really, I am open to the possibility of bringing more improvisation and imperfection into my craft, into my expression of who I am. I've done tapping on that. And that's what is that doing? It's saying, yeah, there's an obstacle. Aren't I supposed to have it figured out? Doesn't doesn't the measure of work that matters, isn't it measured by money and followers and, you know, things like that? I wonder. I wonder what I'd feel about this work I'm doing if there wasn't such a thing as money, and you let that play around in your energy field. It doesn't mean you're not gonna ask for money. For a lot of people, there's a quality of, a tension. Even though I have this tension, and it's acting as an obstacle for me being in my what? Creativity, in my, um, openness. I wonder how I might see this. I wonder how I might frame it differently. Even though your question about what is thriving, if people look at, like, what is actually good, and I wonder what is actually good and sufficient for my thriving. I've been exploring that with people, and it's fascinating. You'll often say, well, I need, you'll hear someone say, I need X thousands, millions of dollars. Oh, so you can't be thriving at all unless that's there. Oh, well, what would be sufficient? Like today, this week, how much resource would you need this week in order to be thriving in the areas that matter to you? Oh, well, I've got that. See, it kind of falls
Yeah.
into that. They've taken something that really is an aspiration and made it a distress. And that is where the work of our yearnings, our aspirations, the things that matter to us, we can start to shift over into distress. I'm not there. I don't know how. There's too much uncertainty. The world is changing. This isn't the way I want it. Obstacle, 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 obstacle. Uh, yeah, we're so human.
And
and and moving it toward more toward like, yeah, I want to be a human with aspirations. I'm way too alive to not have aspirations, but they don't all have to be here right now. Tap tap tap. And you know and some might not even happen in my lifetime, but I like being a person that imagines people being peaceful and free and abundant. I like that I'm that person. Is everyone peaceful, free, and abundant? Well, I'd really need pretty strong drugs to believe that that's happening. Um, it's not happening. So, but I can hold that and the aspiration without it taking me out of the sweet zone of, yeah,
it's interesting you say that. Like at the turn of the beginning of the year, when me and my team in earnest start thinking about this particular event, the guiding mantra for me has been, how do we create a world in which we don't need the Peaceful Heart Network? And is that going to happen in you mind's lifetime? I'm open to that as a possibility.
yeah,
And,
I'm open to that as a
you know,
possibility. I'd
but
love
it's,
that.
it is where it
Celebration.
is. But like just taking that, like going aspirationally, like as we are doing this in small micro ways to make a difference around the world with this amazing work that the organization does, but just like going, okay, what is that? What would it mean for us to be a world in that way? And it ties to the last thing I wanted to ask you about, because it's a word that we used a lot at the beginning that I think is really, really useful, is you keep using the word, this is what I value, this is what I value, this is what I value.
This is what
And
matters to me. Yeah.
yeah, this is what matters to me. And so often, like when I have been and I'm helping folks wrestle with a different life that they might want. For me, there is a understanding that there is a difference between a desire and an outcome. And oftentimes the outcome is a demonstration of it. So for example, my desire is to have self-love. The outcome is I feel confident enough to share an idea at work without fearing the slings and arrows of everybody thinking I am dumb. And so there is the value of appreciating and loving who I am and knowing that I am good enough even in my imperfection, which is connected to, but it's a different thing than what that looks like in an individual moment. And I think part of the struggle people have around this idea, again, to go back to your, like, what do you need to thrive financially? What you need to thrive financially right now? That is a question of what matters, not the outcome. Because when I reframe the question to what do you need right now, well, the things that matter to me are taken care of,
Yeah.
and like it shifts in that particular way. And so I would love, just kind of like, as you think about what matters to me versus how it shows up, I just love to hear you kind of reflect on like my framing of that vocabulary of your experience. Like I would love to hear what you think about that, or how you process that or understand that, or use those things as guiding principles and north stars, and not as we're trying to create change as we recognize what's possible.
Yeah. It's interesting because I realize that if I were to say what matters to me, these are not outcome based.
Hmm.
They're like, I want to be part of co creative communities where people feel safe enough to express. their
Yeah.
ideas, even if the ideas end up being contrast for the organization or for an individual, that those are held in there's sufficient safety and respect for that to be held.
Hmm.
And I live in a world where I value what matters to me is resilience, both personally and with other people that I'm connected to. And I'm a part of their resilience. I know that if they went to work and they shared something and it was shot down and they're hurting, I'm capable of holding a space so that they can recalibrate back into what matters to them, which is like, you know, it matters to me in my work in the world to express ideas, to see where they go, to to um, to have that inner agency and courage. Like courage is 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 something that matters to me. If we each look at things that matter to us, and your things, as you put your life force toward it, right? I'm using my life force, my prayers, my intentions, my work in the world, the stories I share, the podcasts I record. This one, for example, thriving matters to me, and I want to help people recalibrate so that they can experience it, even with thorns and obstacles in their lives. That there's still the possibility that they can feel as part of their day, oh, I got to be of service. That matters to me. It's a today, you know, I'm a student teacher. You've given me, and this organization, this moment in time has given me an opportunity to share things that matter to me that are alive. Um, and as I allow myself to feel it, I'm nourished. The world that I want to live in, the Peaceful Heart Network, we have peaceful hearts that are networked together, and we're aware of each other, and we're aware of where we're attracted to engage, and where our gifts, the things that matter to us, we just make life better when our energy is a part of it in some microcosmic way or cosmic way. That part doesn't matter to me. For some people, being big matters to them. Bless them. For me, if 11 beings are touched in some microcosmic way, yay. And I'm satisfied. I can at the end of the day say that I was in the work that matters to me. And I was in the thriving that matters to me.
Awesome. Well, as always, Rick, very much like for the time here, I want to thank you for just your insight as always. But on a personal note, I just want to thank you. Like you were my very first guest on my podcast 17 years ago. And you have always been someone who is always so willing and giving and sharing. And whenever an ask comes your way, the response is about logistics and how we can make it happen because you always
Yeah.
say yes. And I just, on a personal level, I want you to know how much I appreciate the good work you're doing in the world and the consistent support you've given to those of us in the tapping field. Like it's noticed and it's really appreciated. So thanks for your time today, but thanks for being in the world and being a part of this amazing community.
Thank you, Gene. Love to you.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation. As you look at the screen right now, you can see a link to the entire playlist of every single conversation for previous 24 hours of tapping. There are over 120 presentations waiting for you. And please consider supporting the amazing work of the Peaceful Heart Network.